Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon to Margot because she's in New Zealand. My name is Anne-Marie Beggs. I run a business called the Paragraph Challenge, and I am a Davis dyslexia facilitator based in Dublin in Ireland. And Margot, my colleague, is based in New Zealand. Now, Margot has a lot more titles, so Margot will give you a little bit of information about what she does in New Zealand, and then we'll continue with our chat. Welcome, Margot. Thanks for
Thanks,
getting
Emery. Thanks, Emery. It's lovely to be here. So I am a licensed Davis facilitator, and I'm also a licensed Davis Autism facilitator coach. And my other label is that I am a supervisor specialist and director of Davis Dyslexia Association Pacific. That means that I help to train other Davis facilitators, not the autism ones, but the ones that do the dyslexia, ADHD, math, those programs. Yeah.
Excellent. So busy lady, Margot.
Yeah,
Margot also
busy.
has a very interesting hobby, Margot. What's your hobby?
Well, what I've been doing today is riding a Harley Davidson. So.
Excellent. Yeah. Margot's always putting up lovely videos of herself whizzing around the world on big motorbike. Very impressive. The reason that Margot and me are chatting today is one of my students, she is dyspraxic, and she commented to me last week that, she never finds anyone else who's dyspraxic, which there's plenty of people, obviously, but they don't always share that information, or some people aren't even aware that they're dyspraxic. And coincidentally, the next night I was listening to an interview, well, not an interview, it was a recording of some of my colleagues chatting, and I heard Margot say that she was dyspraxic. And despite her dyspraxia, as she said, she flies around on her Harley Davidson. So, but it probably wasn't always that way, Margot. So growing up with dyspraxia, what was that like?
Really hard, to be honest. I went to a little country school for most of my primary years. There were only 30 children at the school in 2 classrooms. And all of the girls, all they did during lunchtime and morning tea time was play netball. Yeah. And occasionally we might play with the balls. We might play a t-ball, like a version of softball or baseball, sorry. And but I was, even when I was one of the oldest girls in the school, I'd still be allowed to be selected for a team because basically I couldn't catch a ball. Okay. Not reliably anyway. And if I did catch a ball, it would have been just really a bit of a small miracle. So that was it. Those gross motor skills just eluded me. I really struggled with them. I was okay at writing. My handwriting wasn't the best. It wasn't the tidiest, but you could read it. And I used to do like knitting and sewing and some of those skills that required fine motor skills. So my fine motor skills are fine, but my gross motor skills are shocking. Okay. And so so my primary years were pretty awful. I didn't fit in socially. And, there was the cool girls who, even though I did quite well in the classroom, the fact that they couldn't make rubbish of me for not being able to catch a ball in the playground,
wasn't great for your confidence.
No. So it was, it wasn't easy. It wasn't until I got to high school when I found a group of girls who were similar to me, and because I went to an all-girls school, and I found a little group that I fitted into. So that helped me a bit. Yeah.
And so for people listening who don't know a lot about dyspraxia, what are some of the common traits that people with dyspraxia have? So I think a lot of people just think that they're clumsy and they trip over things and like that's all it is.
It is a lot to do with that. It's a lot of, it's hand-eye coordination stuff, really. Yeah. So that's the fine motor skills, handwriting, and the gross motor skills as well. Your sense of time is out. Not that you don't recognize when time is, but because your imagination tends to live in front of you and below your line of sight, that's where the mind's eye likes to hang out. Okay. all never arrives when you expect it to. So you're always like trying to catch it too early or catch it too late because your timing is not correct. For some dyspraxics, being organized can be a real challenge. You know, and that's really yeah, that's the sense of sequences out usually.
Yeah.
Which
And what about like is there any effect on reading or maths or social skills or things like that? Or was
I
that
don't think those things are like particularly related to
right?
dyspraxia because I was a very strong reader and very strong at maths as well. Getting my ideas organized was a challenge. And I didn't really get that, how you edit things and all of that sort of stuff.
Right.
Until
Okay.
I fluked on that in my last year at high school. But yeah, it doesn't, yeah, often dyspraxia comes with other things.
Yeah.
And it's other things that people know that, well, we've got solutions for them, right? We know, oh, we can help you with maths issues, or we can help you with mastering attention, or with literacy issues.
Sure.
And yeah, often they come with other things like that. But usually, the people that I've worked with that have been like mostly dyspraxic, it's organizational skills that are lacking at the same time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of the people that I've worked with, probably like the little girl I'm speaking about, she had maths issues and dyspraxia. And the funny thing is, she couldn't like do basketball or any of those things. But now I have a basketball hoop in my garden, and we did the week program during the summer, and she comes to me every week. She's now really good at basketball, and she actually joined the basketball team. So when did you? So after secondary school, did you go to college, or what did you do, Margot?
I went to university. Yep. And
university.
yeah, and I did a degree in accounting.
Oh, so did I.
And I worked in that field for a number of years. Took a little time out for children and then back into it. And when my younger son was diagnosed with dyslexia, well, I wasn't actually given that label because it was before dyslexia was officially recognised by the education system in New Zealand. But when he was diagnosed with this learning issue, I started spending a bit more time figuring out what was going on and trying to help him with his stuff, and was working more part-time to spend more time with him and help him on his educational journey. And it wasn't so he was diagnosed when he was not quite 7 years old, but I didn't know it was dyslexia until he was 9.
Yeah.
And then when he was 9 and I was looking for books on dyslexia is when I found the Davis program.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
So did you do a Davis program yourself?
Or I did as part of my training.
Yeah.
Because it was attention deficits for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was
couldn't stay on task.
I was doing this similar. I mean, because the reason I trained was because of my son as well. I was a financial controller, so similar to yourself in accounts. I mean, mind-numbingly boring and very repetitive, but I just happened to be good at it. It was not something I ever was passionate about. Probably like you, Margot. And then I said, oh, I'll do the first workshop just to help him. And I go, oh, I really like this. And so I continued. So was that something similar for yourself, Margot? Was that or did you always intend to train as a facilitator?
When I saw how the program was impacted my son, I thought, whoa, this is what I need to do with my life. Because my personality profile says that I should be a teacher, but I could never see myself in a classroom with kids, trying to control them all and that sort of stuff. But when I saw how the Davis program worked for my son, that was like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's what I need to do. And as soon as I found a workshop that was, in New Zealand, I was in.
Yeah.
So the first first one they ran in New Zealand, I was in and got into it. Yeah.
And
And that's where I discovered that I was dyspraxic.
okay, right. So you didn't know that you were dyspraxic until then.
No, I was just useless at catching.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit like
And not so good at back in the car either.
oh, spatial awareness wasn't great.
Nah. You know, I was just responsible for a few letterboxes, timely belongs.
My husband didn't know he was dyslexic till he went to, I mean, he was rubbish at school and he was colorblind. He didn't realize he was colorblind till he was 17. He just thought he was bad at school and not very clever until he went to work as a part-time job on the ships with his dad. And then he realized he was actually good at calculating things in his head. And so he's good at mental maths and everything, and he could figure out how to make a profit for himself. And then he went and did a master's, but he only could do the master's based on his experience, not because he'd gone to college or anything. And they said his handwriting is diabolical, still diabolical. And they said, do you mind if we do a test with you in Trinity College? And he said, oh, yeah. And then they said to him, oh, you're dyslexic. But he didn't tell me for years. I just happened to find this piece of paper in the thing. And I was going, oh, you're dyslexic. I don't want to talk about it. Because he thought it was a negative thing, which it isn't. Like, it's just a different way. And I remember when Christian was small, he really didn't want him to be dyslexic because of his bad experience in school. And we always slag him because his handwriting is so bad. And I always go, oh, you sure you're not dyspraxic as well? No, I was very good at gymnastics and we've never seen any evidence of this, Mark. So what difference has the diagnosis made to your life, would you say, Margot?
I think it just really explained things to me, you know, why I couldn't catch the car keys when my husband threw them to me, you know, and like he'd throw them to me and 95 times out of 100 I'd miss them. And if I caught them, he'd go, oh wow, you caught them. And he wasn't being rude, he was just genuinely shocked. It's so rare, you know. And I was always bumping into the door jams and all of that sort of stuff and catching my clothes on things and hitting the corner of the table and stuff like that.
I mean, I do that.
Yeah, so I think for me the big difference in my life was, you know, okay, that's what happens, right? But then at the same time, I was doing the Davis workshop and we were, as trainees, we're taking on all the tools for ourselves. Yeah. And so I got my own way of being oriented. And I have these so brilliant, vivid memories of doing the Kush ball exercise with Ron, because I volunteered to do it because I thought, well, I've never caught a ball before in my life with any reliability at all. And so Ron was throwing the balls to me and I was catching one in each hand, either hand, and we're doing diagonals and then we're doing doubles and I'm just about literally bouncing off the walls. I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then Ron got 2 more balls out. And this is not what we normally do and when working with clients, but he had 2 balls and he gave me 2 balls and he says, your job is just to catch these 2 balls that I throw. And I was catching them. And so we had 4 balls flying through the air and I'm catching 2 and throwing them back to him. And oh my gosh, I was just, you know, my dial went pew.
I can just imagine how thrilled you were. I mean, I was very good at sports, but I was not good at catching balls either. Now that you say it, like we used to play, do you know what rounders are?
What?
Rounders. Have you ever heard of rounders? So it's a little bit like baseball, but it's a shorter bat we play in Ireland, but basically the same principle. I was very good at batting, but not good if we had to switch and be in the field and catch. I'd be running and go catch ball. I'd have my arm and go. Now I'm very good at catching balls. Somebody threw one years ago. We were sitting outside, and it was going to hit someone, and I just went like that, and they're going, "Whoa, you're very good at catching balls." And I didn't actually think of it because you don't really think of it; it just becomes like instinctive, doesn't it? So I would say to kids, you don't watch the balls. If you watch the balls, you'll, because like in the beginning there, and I'm going, no, you have to keep like your focus up. More of an awareness.
So I about the time I started my Davis training, I decided I'd like to get my motorbike license. And so when I was doing a couple of courses to move up the levels in the licensing process in New Zealand. I was partway through my training, and we had to do these slow figure eights in the motorbike, and I was struggling with them. And so the instructor says, "I'll just take some time out and we'll get somebody else to do it instead." And I didn't have any koosh balls with me, but I did have some leather gloves. And so I got one of the other women to throw me leather gloves and balanced on one foot. I basically did the koosh ball exercise with leather gloves to help me get orientated so that I could do this slow figure eight on my motorbike.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't believe that I would be I would struggle to get a motorbike license without being oriented and knowing about release and my dial, because when you ride a motorbike, you have to be aware of what's going on behind you and what's going on in front of you, and you deliberately disorientate quite often to
do that.
To do that. And you also need to like use release quite a bit, because if you tense up, you don't do so well. And so like I've been riding a motorbike now for 18 years, and I've done about 180,000+ kilometers on Harley motorbikes. And I'm quite good. You know, I actually lead rides for the club, and I am the director of the club at the moment. So it's something that I know down well, that if I didn't have the tools, I would not do very well at all. And I wouldn't enjoy. Because that ability to relax and, you know, use release is really, really important. We were riding through some wet weather one day, and it wasn't very nice weather, and some tight windy bits, and the road was really wet. Got out of those windy bits, and there was a straight piece of road ahead, and I thought I'd better catch up to the bikes in front of me. So I put a bit of throttle on, and it was too much too quick, and the back end of the bike was going like this. It was really like fishtailing, really. We call them tank slaps, that the back end of the bike's going to come around and slap the tank at the front. You know?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it was really going for it. Like, and my husband was behind me. He reckoned it was the worst fishtail tank slap he'd ever seen. And I was sitting there on the bike thinking, oh, I'm probably going to fall off. Am I going to jump with the bike, or will I just slide down the hill? I don't know which way I'm going to go, you know. And I was actually really oriented, and I was released because I had figured out that, you know,
you were going to fall.
I was going to fall, everything's going to get scratched, it might hurt, you know. I was quite relaxed about it. And eventually the bike just settled down. And because we have the saying, is where you look is where you end up.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was looking in the distance and just thinking about which way was I going to go with this. And the bike just settled down. And that became, like, you know how we have what we call old solutions?
Sure, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's worked once and we just do it. Well, that works for me automatically every time now. At the back end of my like wibbles a little bit, like maybe I've had a bit of roadkill on the road, or there's a greasy spot. My body automatically relaxes, release goes in, and I drop my shoulders, and I'm just like, okay, and then it just straightens up. So I'm sure that if I didn't have those techniques, I'd put my
because you'd probably listening to you, my instinct would be like tense. I'm like, oh, I have to stop it, you know. And so actually I started Tai Chi, and the guy was explaining to me last night, like the difference, and it's a bit like you and your motorbike and being released. You go with the energy rather than trying to fight against it, because that's not going to work anyway, because that bike I'm sure is much stronger than you. Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to say to people out there who either have dyspraxia or are concerned about any issues with coordination or anything? Like, what would you tell them, what's the difference with Davis? Because a lot of people still aren't even aware of Davis, and if they are, they might think it's just to do with reading. But we cover a whole lot of things, like you said in the beginning. So with regards to dyspraxia, what would you say to them about, you know, doing a Davis program? I suppose taking a leap of faith, because a lot of people because it's not like the teacher's not going to go, oh yeah, here's do a Davis program. So
no, and I think for me, the big thing that we do in Davis is we teach us those three main tools: how to be oriented, how to use release, and relax really easily at your wherever you are, and no one's gonna know.
Yeah.
And managing your energy levels. And those tools made a huge difference to my life, and my dyspraxia and my coordination. And if I don't use them, yeah, one day I was in the Harley dealership. We were having a sausage sizzle, raising money, and I was to go back out and do the sausage sizzle. And there's some people that I walked past that had an interesting conversation, and I thought, oh, I will keep listening to that conversation and carry on walking. Well, obviously there was 2 steps down to the outside, and they were concrete steps, and I lost it on the top of the first step. And I had a cup of hot chocolate in my hand, and I thought, well, this will be a bit dangerous. So I gave that the flick, and the time slowed down, and anyway, I banged my kneecap on the edge of the concrete step and broke it.
Yeah.
So it was a deliberate choice of mine not to stay oriented.
Yeah.
And look what happened, So I would say if you have the Davis program, and being oriented will make a huge difference to your life. And then there'll be some other area of your life that you will find challenging, that you will want some support with. And most often, if it's not maths or reading, it's going to be being organized and staying on task. Because as dyspraxics, we often I was saying before, our mind's eye likes to hang out in a not so hot place for being able to be all coordinated, right? And we have to train our mind's eye to hang out in another place. And I found that once I was oriented, I'd actually rather be oriented than disoriented, because there's a heck of a lot less bruises all over my body.
Yeah. I mean, I tripped over my dog last week, so I know how you feel. And I had injured my leg a few weeks ago, and it was really bothering me, my left leg. And I was working outside because it happened to be a nice day, one of the kids, and they left. And I did what my dad used to always say not to do, 2 armfuls of stuff. I come in, and one of my dogs, she's small and fat, and to get from my kitchen into the room I'm in now, there's a step, because it's a very old house, and it's arranged very strangely, really. So I'm going up the step, and she decides to move in front of me, and she's kind of fat. So I'm going, oh my God. Now, I should have just thrown the stuff on the ground, but of course I was going, I don't want to drop everything. But so I tried to jump over her, and like your story, I fell smack down on my knee, and I'm lying on the ground and going, oh my God, I'm after bashing my hip and my knee. Oh, I've probably broken my leg. Because normally I just get up, because I'm very hyperactive anyway. And I'm lying there going, no, I'm not jumping up. One of my legs broke. And I didn't know my husband was doing an interview on Zoom the other day. I'm screaming, Mark! And then he comes in and goes, why are you lying on the floor? I go, oh, okay. He lifts me up, plunks me on a chair. I'll be back in a few minutes. And after about like a minute, I'm going, I'm really bored. Yeah. My leg's absolutely fine.
We used to have a house that
walking around, my legs grand. I was just being paranoid. Yeah, so I can imagine if you broke your kneecap on a cement step.
Yeah, it was quite painful. I didn't have to have a cast or anything, but it did have to be immobilized for quite a few weeks. But I've done things like we had a laundry that was sort of downstairs, and the only way to get to it was under the house. Effectively, the only way to get to it was go down some stairs. And I was carrying the dirty laundry down to do the washing, and I slipped on this top step, and I bounced on each step on my bottom all the way down, and I ended up with a bruise that was like this big across my bottom and black and blue and about that deep. I could hardly sit down for weeks. And that's just like, just misjudging a step, and which is a really easy thing to do when you're dyspraxic.
I mean, one thing I noticed.
I've worked with a few different people with dyspraxia, and I remember your story about the the girl who was playing.
Oh, the basketball, yeah, she's very good at it now.
Yeah. Well, I worked with a girl who was really tall, and like her legs would sort of come, she was 12 years old, and her legs would actually go right through the other side of the table, but she
Okay.
couldn't get the ball to save herself, and she just hated PE, for Z, because she didn't even knew when the ball was going to hit her.
Yeah.
And it was just, it just really stressed her out. But using the tools and deliberately moving her mind's eye to where she wanted the ball to end up, she was able to throw the ball and hit a post that was about, I don't know, 4 inches, 10 centimeters in diameter
Yeah.
from 2 meters away. Because, with her extraordinary height at 12 years old, she would have made an awesome netballer. But just
Sure. Yeah.
to have the confidence that
Yeah.
her
It gives
sense
great confidence, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
so yeah, I would say, to anybody who does have dyspraxia, if you've not found something that works, then obviously
try Davis.
Davis is
Davis
try
works.
Davis, right?
Davis works.
Davis works, and everyone knows that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It does. It's really for getting yourself coordinated and being more spatially aware of what's going around you. It
I
makes
mean,
a huge difference. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, Margot. It was great to
You're
talk
welcome.
to you. It's always great to talk to you anyway, Margot, but it's even better when you've got something that's going to appeal to like a specific audience that I suppose sometimes they're a little bit forgotten about. There's not as much chat about it on social media or
Right.
in the general public. And I mean, I even see online people from some dyspraxia associations, there is no help, blah, 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 but you just have to put up with this. Like, you don't. Davis solves lots of problems. Reading, maths, attention, like you said, dyspraxia, a whole heap of problems. And everybody's lovely.
Pardon?
I said, and we're all lovely. Well, because most people, I think the difference as well with Davis is a lot of people are like you who understand it, like from a specific point of view. I'm not dyslexic or dyspraxic, but I am ADD, which I only discovered when I was doing my training. When one of the trainers from the other room came in and got, oh my God, Emma, you're so ADD, would you have to stop talking? And the funny thing about me is that I either talk a lot or I don't talk at all. So I was very shy in school. So I would chat to my neighbor, but and I always would sit at the front of the class. I didn't really like to be at the back, obviously, because maybe there was just too much distraction. I loved daydreaming, so I occupied myself very well when I was bored with the teacher had to say. And only afterwards did when I sit in the bath when I was doing the Davis program, I was going, oh, so that's why I was really good at maths. And I'd know the stuff straight away, and I'd be so bored for weeks. And then come the test, I go, oh, why didn't I get an A? Because I had disorientated for so many classes, obviously. But it only made sense when I did Davis why my results were. I never failed anything, but my results would be very up and down, depending on my age at the time. So yeah, it made a lot of sense. Okay, so
I think, for most people, like if you've got literacy issues, there's quite a few solutions out there. Maths issues, there's quite a few different tutoring options.
sure.
Attention deficits, we can give you a pill for that.
Which is
but
scary.
none of them actually work permanently, and dyspraxia is the only one they don't like have a pill or a tutoring class for it, right? So
No.
it's the one that everybody goes, oh, you can't, it can't be helped. And it can be quite depressing if you read textbooks on it.
Yeah.
But if you are coordinated and if you can, use the Davis tools, and the beauty of Davis is, right, we choose when to do it, right? We're totally in control.
It's not like you're changing someone's personality. You're just adding to the quality of their life. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I decide when I want to
teaching people to be relaxed. So I think
Yep.
a lot of people, when someone says concentrate, like they do the opposite. They get all tense up. They get a headache. I mean, I suffered from chronic migraines for years, and I think a lot of people get headaches because they're concentrating so hard. We're doing the opposite. We're saying, hey, this will work better if you're relaxed.
Yeah.
Anyway, I shall let you get on with your evening, Margot. The sun is now shining in my eyes.